we do have some marvelous, interesting, true stories. And the true stories, I would have to say, I truly believe are true. For one thing, I could not write about them believably if I didn't believe in them myself. And I had one experience after another while living in England in a haunted manor house for about 6 months. My first husband was an Air Force pilot, and we were stationed over there for a number of years. We were 3.5 years in England, and we rented a flat in a very large and lovely old manor house called Raynham Hall. And we had 5 big rooms in the upper floor of this beautiful manor house, which was built in 1603 and was then owned by the Lord and Lady Townsend. He was a Viscount or Marquis and the Marchioness Townsend of Raynham. And it was a very fancy address and a very lovely apartment. And we wondered at the time when we moved in there why it was so reasonable, because it was cheap compared to a lot of the places we looked at. And in a gorgeous setting, in this wooded setting, we found out later the place was so haunted that nobody else wanted to live there, and they would all stay just a week or two and move out. And they finally got somebody dumb enough to move in and stay a good long time, which was my husband and I. And so they lowered the rent a little bit as a come on to not up and leave right away. But the first experience I had there was one evening when my husband was away on a mission. He was a pilot, and he was gone for several days and nights. And my mother was a wonderful mother, and she always took the time to cut out clippings from the Dallas and Garland papers, and she'd get a manila envelope full of them. And she didn't send the whole newspapers, because why pay to send me the want ads, or something like that. She would only pick out things that she thought would be a real interest to me about my hometown, whether it was from the society section or from the school section or a sports section or whatever. And once or twice a month, she'd send us a big bag of these clippings, and I would just sit up in bed at night and relish them and read through them and enjoy them so much. And one night, we had an old-fashioned bed in that particular room, and it had a little lamp clipped to the back headboard of the bed. Some of you may have seen the old-time clipped-on lamp on the headboard. And I clipped the little lamp on, and I was reading, propped up in bed reading, and the door just next to my bed was closed. It connected the bedroom to the living room. And the room was almost as large as this room, not quite as large, and the ceilings were 14 feet high. It was a manor house. And it was designed by Christopher Wren, a very famous architect, and was quite a lovely home. And across one wall were about 8 large windows, which were covered with a burgundy velvet drapery that you had to pull, just like you'd pull a stage curtain with 2 hands to get that drapery to go clear across that wall of windows. And in the center of that wall of windows were 2 windows which formed a French door that opened out into a little balcony. Just a lovely looking place. And as I sat up in bed reading my little clippings, suddenly I heard a noise, and then I felt a cold breeze, and that door just opened gradually. I saw the doorknob turn, and the door right adjacent to the bed started pulling back, and the room was suddenly permeated with cold. It was very cold. And this was May, so it was not a cold month in England. And I suddenly smelled what I would have to equate it was not a malodorous smell particularly, but nor was it pleasant. It was more like the damp mud or earth you would encounter when digging a root cellar or when digging down in cold, moist, wet earth, maybe putting in bulbs or a flower garden. But that's what it smelled like to me. And suddenly the drapes started drawing by themselves. because I was still in bed. I just encountered this strange appearance. And suddenly, the drapes started drawing, and the two center windows, which were French doors, flung themselves open. Again, I didn't see a human being at all, but the doors opened, and whatever it was went on out. And it took me about 10 minutes to just gather my thoughts, because it's rather frightening. And then I got up out of bed, and I walked over to the still open windows and looked out on the little balcony. And of course, I didn't expect to find anything, and I didn't. But I closed the balcony doors and pulled back the latch again, and I drew the drapes again. But I didn't sleep very much that night. And when my husband came home from his mission, I told him, and he poo-pooed the whole idea and told me I was just had a very vivid imagination, but nothing had happened. Until one night he came home from a late evening flying mission, and the hair was standing up on the back of his neck and on his arm. And he was a big guy. He was about 6'3" and weighed about 240 pounds. Big guy. And he had all this hair standing on him. And he said, something passed me on the stairs. There wasn't anything there, but it brushed against me. He said, get on your robe. I'd already gone to bed. He said, get on your robe, and we're going to go look for it. I said, we?